Blog Talk Radio.
And in those days, there were giants in the land, and the sons of the angels of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took of them wives, and their sons became of old great men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
Here on Earth we're intrigued by the sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. So conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we lost. That indeed they believe that these might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they fall in the works of our hands are but just filthy rags. So we travel the lands to dig up our past. Time elapses and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that God came in alien craft. They react in this way, they're so desperate for meaning and purpose, but satanic service, they know that they have evil motives. Am I making you nervous? I'm just scratching the surface. The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. In the blink of an eye, all believers will be raptured. Anyone left receives a mark or they're captured. This leader will arise, claim his origins are alien, possessed by Satan on the side of the Nephilim. Profess those who left held us back from evolving, and now that they're gone, we'll solve all of Earth's problems. The worship of any one God will be halted, evolving to gods and ourselves be exalted. They'll play on these lines, and in time they'll devise and arrive at a plan that will help hypnotize all the ones left behind, the spiritually blind. He's stolen their souls, now he's stealing their minds. It's already started, we're seeing the signs. Just study the word, prophecies all aligned. Now chop off the heads of all those who fight at one earth, one world. Aren't you excited? The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. Where will you be in the year 2012? Are they casting a spell they're not ready to tell? It's time to reveal what they tried to keep veiled. Pure evil they hail and they sell it so well. He fell from the heavenly realms where he dwelled, a once beautiful angel that tried to rebel. Expelled from the light into darkness and hell, now a serpent and snake with reptilian scale. He wears a disguise with angelic wings and mimics the truth with a lie so obscene. He always repeats the same thing he told Eve, that you'll be supreme, a king or a queen, that you can evolve to an enlightened being, a god of your own that can do anything. He feeds on our souls with this fraudulent scheme in so many ways, but it's all just the same. The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near.
Why hide yourself with, creating UFO crafts and things like that? Why that deception if that's indeed what's going on?
The creatures figured out that there was one way that they could frighten mankind, and that is to present themselves as technologically superior beings, some physical UFOs.
Why would they want to abduct human beings?
UFO abductions might not be caused by physical occupants, but from creatures living in perhaps what we would call another dimension.
Posing as occupants.
Yes, the same type of interfering, harassing, paraphysical creature in every culture worldwide.
Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, and viewers from across America and around the world. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv, and it's a 5 p.m. Eastern Time broadcast. We're streaming out of Athens, Georgia. It's February 23rd, 2013, and I thank you for joining us and for your willingness to share your testimony and your questions, and for just being part of the family of truth seekers. Our motto is, the seeker of lost paradise may seem a fool to one who has never sought the other world. And I'm honored today to have as guest with me Mary Sutherland, who runs the website burlingtonnews.net, and it's a plethora of myriad information and covers a lot of topics. I first came upon her work in doing research on the giants, and she's been a pioneer in this field for a long time, 2 decades even, in studying about the ancient ones and their presence here upon this planet. And so she's going to be able to share a lot of insight and information with us today. She's the author of 5 books, 4 which are readily available: Living in the Light, Believe in the Magic Mysteries, Exploring the Mysteries of Burlington and Southeastern Wisconsin, and Revelations, Truths Revealed in the Search of Ancient Man, Lost in Time. And Mary, would you like to let the listening audience know what your new book is about, and also where it is that they can go to find your work and to support you in what you do?
Well, my latest book is not out yet, but it should be up, I'm thinking, probably in about a month. Where I'm doing a book or a series. It's called In Search of Ancient Man, and book 1 is done, called Lost in Time, and the other one I just don't quite have a name for it yet. But they'll be able to find it on Amazon, or they can go to my website, and I do believe that it'll be at Barnes & Noble as well.
Mary also has been doing a radio show for past 13 years covering all of these various differing esoteric topics. Can you let people know as far as where you do your shows and where they can go to listen, what days and when it is you broadcast?
Well, the name of the show is BUFO Radio. BUFO stands for Burlington UFO. And I've been doing it, I think it's been going on 13, 14 years now. It's an internet radio, and actually we've expanded it to internet radio plus television. And you can generally just go to burlingtonnews.net. That's BurlingtonNews.net. And you can just go right there. We have a live stream, 24/7 live stream. I take all my a lot of my archive shows and put them on a live stream, so you can listen to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, can you tell us, if Burlington, is that a city, or is that the area where you live, or that you've done your research?
Well, I've done a lot of my research in Arizona, but I came here about 13 years ago, and here is in Wisconsin, Burlington, Wisconsin, and its population's about 8,000, and it's a vortex area, sacred site area, so it keeps us real busy. It's just awesome. Investigating the phenomena that go on within a vortex.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background and how it is that you became interested in these particular issues, and what it was that led you to begin down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it too. But when I was in Arizona, I had the Phoenician Publishing House, and one of the books that we published was it was a tourist publication, and it was based on the mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. So I would have all these various Native Americans coming in, prospectors and all that, and they would tell me their stories, and then I would publish the stories in this bi-monthly publication I had, and so as the tourists come in, they would have something kind of cutesy to read. But as more and more people started coming in telling these stories, I got interested myself. I started going out into the mountains and investigating it for myself, and and like you said, down the rabbit hole I went.
Superstition Mountains, is that the story of there was like a huge cache of not only gold but artifacts, and if I'm correct, didn't the government come in and take everything out, or is that a different story?
Well, I think you're thinking of the Lost Dutchman mine, and of course they're still looking for that. And the government keeps a close eye on all the prospectors and different people that go out there in search of it. So I imagine once they find it, the government will be right in there to jump on it, And they have found a lot of different caches up there in the mountains, and in New Mexico and Arizona. And that has been what pretty much the story. The government jumps right in and and confiscates it. It doesn't stop the people from looking. So anyhow, but there's been there's the Superstition Mountains has a lot more to offer than just the gold and the various treasure caches up there. But it's a place of dimensional. Something like Burlington. It's a place of dimensional doorways, that people, we've had stories of prospectors going back into time, or stepping into the future. So
wow.
So that's where it gets its name, Superstition Mountains. They talk about, and that's where I first came across the stories of the little people and the giants is through the, the Native American lore from the Superstition Mountains.
Well, would you mind sharing some of the more intriguing stories and some of the research that you've come to find? I've heard of some of the petroglyphs, and then I have even heard that there was an Egyptian type city found there in the Grand Canyon, I believe, in Colorado, and there's also mythologies of like the Knights of Templars having been here prior to Columbus's discoveries, and of course there's all these the ruins that are built into like the side of the canyon walls and their association to the Kachina and to the giants of old. Would you mind sharing some of the more intriguing stories that you've come across?
Well, I think I probably want to start with the Native American lore. What's got me started on the path of the giants and the little people was Native American out of the Superstition Mountains used to say that the mountains or the little people used to be, that made the Superstition Mountains their home until the giants appeared. And when the giants appeared, they went inside the mountains. And so it was just like, what giants, what little people? And so thus, I started, doing investigations. And that was before we had computers, so I wasn't able to Google anything, which thank God we got Google now, so, it kind of opens up a whole new world for all of us. But so I would have to go out there, drive out to these different places, and ask the questions, and hope that I get the right answers on it. But according to Native American lore, the Native Americans totally believe in giants and the little people. And I think that with the exception of the United States, most of the countries around the world do believe, that giants did roam this earth at one point in time and that there was little people here as well. It seems like, here in North America, it's a taboo subject. It's better than it used to be, but it still has, it's still an uphill battle, trying to get all this information out. But in Arizona, there's a place up in the northern part of, northeastern part of Arizona that actually has, you can go up there and actually see the footprints left, in the rock, along with dinosaur prints, so. And you also got it down. You've got where human footprints along with the dinosaur footprints down in Texas too. So we do have archaeological evidence that that humans did walk with dinosaurs, and that these humans were not small. They were of gigantic proportion. But that would only make sense if everything else was large during that time. Why would men have been made to be 5'5", 5'10"? he would have had to been the same size as everything else, just in order to survive, unless they were taken from off planet and then put here on Earth, which is always a possibility.
Yeah, we don't even know, as far as going back into time, all the different megalithic type structures and the things that we can't even create and repeat now, and all of the different mythologies, all across the world that speak about the incursion of the sky people, and that you have all the ancient alien series now that are going around and doing the research on all this. Do you think that one of the reasons why people don't know about the giants and the different things that have occurred here within the continental United States is because of the cover-up, the organized cover-up, and that a lot of times that when these giant bones have been unearthed, and they've been unearthed in a lot of places here in America, especially in some of these mounds that have been, excavated, that whenever the Smithsonian is called in, or different museum-type groups, that they always claim to lose the artifacts, or that they are disappeared somehow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, huh? That
yes.
And that's exactly what happens. Is they have all these archaeologists set up, and tell the people, if you find something, make sure you contact an archaeologist in your area, and then they will come out and help you, to take care of the excavation of the site. So everybody contacts an archaeologist. The archaeologist comes in, and the archaeologist says, well, you guys got to back off, let us do our thing, and then we'll give you the results. But the problem is, after the site has been excavated, the people that have found it, they're never told the truth. They don't know what's been there. Everything's been taken out, and it all disappears. It never gets out there where any of these museums where people can actually see it. And my husband, his grandfather actually had the same experience down in our hometown of Boscobel, Wisconsin. He had a farm over by Boscobel, and he came across an ancient site, of burials, and he contacted the archaeologist, and the archaeologist came in and dug up all that land and hauled everything out in boxes, and never one time did they ever tell Brad's grandfather what they had found.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I knew about, it was kind of a fun story about how I found out about it, is because I was, one winter, things were slow, so a friend of mine had said if you use your library card, you can actually get in, through the library into all these archived newspapers. And so I thought, well, maybe what I can do is find, stories on giant graves that was found in Wisconsin, which I did, so anybody that's out there that wants to know how to find these newspaper clippings, contact your library. They'll give you the address of what to type in, and then you just use your library card. All these old newspapers from the 1800s will pop up, and you'll have a great time doing your own investigation on the, on the giants or whatever else you're interested in. But while I was doing it, going through all these, I came across because what I wanted to do was compile all these newspaper clippings for Wisconsin, all these giants that were found in Wisconsin. And as I was going through it, I found a newspaper clipping for the Pacific Stars and Stripes, believe it or not, from Tokyo, Japan. I mean, I never found out about Brad's grandfather through anything here. I found out about it through Tokyo, Japan. And it was published June 28, 1961, about an ancient Indian cemetery found. And so I was telling Brad about it because it said it was right on the Richland-Crawford County line, and so that's where we're from, that area. So I brought it up to Brad if he knew anything about it, and he said, well, yeah, he says, that was my grandfather's place. So anyhow, it's kind of an interesting story, But like I said, I went completely around the bush in order to get that story. You know, started in Japan and worked myself right back to my husband. So, but yeah, the information's out there, and you can find it thanks to the internet. But prior to the internet, the only way that you'd be able to find any of this information was through your public libraries. And the libraries were so censored. And of course, during those days, if you wanted to even publish a book, you had to go through a publisher. And these publishers only were accepting certain types of books to be published. So, you know, just to even get a book published on, you know, ancient races, giants, or, you know, something like that was almost next to impossible. So, but now, again, like I said, thanks to the internet, all this information is starting to come out, and all these people, you know, that said that it didn't happen, well, they're all sitting around with egg on their face, because there's more than enough evidence out there that giants were here. You know, little people were here, and they've been here at a much longer time than what religion would like to, you know, stamp it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have. On my website, I have skulls that were found that was over 1 million years old. You know, skulls of humans. You know, so that kind of takes away the theory of, you know, that man was created during the time of, you know, Adam and Eve, you know, 2,000-3,000 years ago.
Yeah, 7,000. Let me ask you this: as far as, have you seen stories of skulls that have also been, you know, that have horns? And can you also tell us about, like, bones that have, you know, skeletons that are of larger size? Because I know Steve Quell, he wrote in his book, Genesis 6 Giants, he speaks about how it was that there have been skeletons that have been found even up to the size of like 30 feet long. And right. I was just wondering, in your experience and in your research and study, are there still, you know, skeletons of such size being discovered? There was one that was discovered in England where they placed the body up against, you know, it was larger than even the train, the caboose, and so there's been various sizes of skeletons that have been found worldwide. Can you speak a little bit about that, Mary?
Well, sure. It goes back to my theory about when the dinosaurs, you know, roamed this earth and everything was of a gigantic size, it would only be natural that humans would have been giants too. And they're finding them all over the world. But unfortunately, as soon as they're found, somebody comes in and confiscates, you know, the skeletons, and then they disappear. We had a television. These people wanted me on this television show. I think it was. I think it was Discovery. Yeah, it was the Discovery Channel, and they says, "Do you have any evidence?" Well, you know, where are you going to find the evidence? You know, but we do have a lot of evidence just through recessive gene. You know, people born of, you know, of giant size. We've got people walking the earth right now that's 7 foot. You know, I think that there's, we've got people, I think, 12 foot over in China in various places. Not very many, but we've got a few. And we've got people being born with 6 fingers and 6 toes. We have people born with double rows of teeth, you know, and that's a recessive gene.
Right.
You know, so the recessive gene is still, you know, proving out the fact that these did exist. They have found some skeletal remains in, I believe it's in Utah, but there's I found out through Wayne Mays that the Mormon Church down there in Salt Lake City has they have this huge building with all these artifacts in there that's, you know, it's just not open to the public. And of course, the Vatican has a lot. The Smithsonian has a lot. But it's just where are you gonna? How is the public going to see it?
Yeah,
but,
we don't have access.
But we are finding, we're finding pottery in South America, and showing, depicted on the pottery is, man with dinosaurs. And again, like I said, we found footprints in the stone of human prints with dinosaurs. And then we're finding a lot of artifacts like large size axes, different types of tools that could only have been made for a giant. A regular sized human could never even lift these. And then, of course, you brought up the big discovery that they had the Grand Canyon. And that was, I don't have the date in front of me. Let's see if I do. Maybe I do. But anyhow, maybe somebody wants to Google the date. But there was a huge discovery of an ancient race in the Grand Canyon, and they closed that off, and promised that they're going to excavate it, and then they would share this information with the public, because the Arizona, I believe it was the Arizona Gazette, was covering this. And they were going to share the story with the Gazette as to what they found. And, of course, they never did. But it's interesting to note that I think that was in is late 1800s or early 1900s that they found this. But it's interesting to note that even today, 2013, that entire area is roped off. No one can go in there, So they're still hiding whatever they found there. But from what I had heard, that there was large statues of Buddha even in there, showing that we, at some point in time, that we had, that this country, had people such as India here. There's Burroughs Cave showed evidence of the ancient Egyptians here. It's there. All that information is out there. We can blame it on, the big cover-up that that the government has covered all this stuff up, and we can't, that we can't have access to it. But there's more than enough evidence and pictures on the Internet now, whereas if a person wants to, a regular, Jane Doe, John Doe wants to, John Smith wants to, they can just get right on the Internet and Google in giants and just click on, as soon as Google opens up, just click on images. And, there's thousands upon thousands of pictures, of artifacts that have been discovered. So it's all unfolding, as it was promised. And the people that had the original cover-up, they're going to be sitting with egg on their face.
I fully agree with you. I think that, some of this also has to do with the support of, Darwinism and how giants don't fit into that kind of evolutionary theory. And then also with that science, they have this set premise where it's basically like a religion, and they have this whole foundational belief system that they've established and that they're teaching in all the school systems here in America, and that anything that contradicts or that goes against, this theology is quickly eradicated, stripped away, hidden, and put into the vaults of the Smithsonian or the Vatican or wherever it ends up. And they don't want anything that goes contrary to, what science has established as truth for us.
Yeah, and that not only works with history, but it's also you see this in physics as well. It's everything. I mean, it's just like they're trying to take a story, trying to take a square peg and just pound it into that round hole. If it doesn't fit, just hit that peg a little bit harder. Just keep on hitting it until it finally goes into that round hole.
Right.
and it doesn't work. And I think that the people today, they're more, they're because of the internet, they're more educated, and they're more awakened, and they're asking questions. And unfortunately, the science of the old paradigm just doesn't have the answers for them. And I think that more and more people are just turning away from, the basics of the academic world, and looking more for their own answers, because you said it. I mean, these people, we're still celebrating Columbus Day, for God's sake. Discovering discovering North America. I mean, and I think that, that's been so proven. I mean, even a fourth grader even knows today that Columbus wasn't the discoverer of America, that there was people here, but they're still doing it, They do it as far as UFOs. People are seeing UFOs all the time, and they don't accept, you talk to the military, try to get answers from the military, they don't give you answers either. If they can't feed you a lie, they just don't say anything, So I guess it's up to us. We can sit back and we complain all we want to about the government, and all the lies that they're feeding us, or, we can go that direction, or just turn around and just bite the bullet and just start investigating on our own and coming up with our own answers. And that's what I chose to do a long time ago, is I wasn't getting the right answers. So I decided to investigate it for myself. And then, I decided that once I learned anything I learned, I created my website and I put it up on my website. And I think my website, I laugh about it. I tell people virtually it's about the size of New York City. You need a map in order to, navigate it. You could spend years on my website, and probably never get to the end of it, But that's because everything I found, I wanted to make sure that it was open for the public to see as well. So.
Yeah, you've got a massive amount of information on many, many topics. But as far as your research on the giants and all of the links and the stories and the articles that you shared, it's a library in itself. And you're right, you can spend days, and I have spent days reading through the really interesting things that you have provided there freely, and it's a blessing for those that are intrigued by these particular subjects and that are wanting to do that kind of research for themselves, because it's like a central hub, and I'm sure that's why you are visited quite often by, I'm sure, people from all over the world.
Oh, sure. Well, maybe for your listening audience, what we want to do is give the URL for the giant page. It's burlingtonnews.net/giants. So burlingtonnews.net/giants. And on that website, what I've tried to do is compile information that I have found in a way that people can easily navigate it, where it shows giants around the world that were found. But then I broke it down for North America alphabetically according to the state. So if you want to know what giants, the information I have on giants for Arizona, go there and, go to the A's and, read up on it, And so there's quite a lot there. And then also I have a lot of pictures up there as well, so that people can actually see some of the skeletal remains of giants that have been found.
Do you think that there's any association to giants and UFOs? The reason I asked this is because it wasn't long ago that Barry Seamus, who's a secular author, an interviewer, he wrote a book about how it was that giants and UFOs have been visiting Israel, and this was in the late 1990s, and that there was also a story of a sighting in, I believe it was Voronezh in Russia, where a group of school children and even police officers and basically the whole town and city there were witness to giants being released out of this one craft, that this one craft had landed, and these 9-foot-tall giants then made their way out of the craft, and it says that they were even looking for something in particular. Are you familiar with those two stories, and could you comment on that?
Well, I'm familiar with Barry Chamish's stories because I did a show with Barry on VUFO radio, and he tells and he sent me a DVD of these UFOs. They actually there was people there in Israel. They had their cameras. And they actually videoed all these different UFOs that were coming and going, and he had live witness reports that these the people that were coming out of these UFOs were giants. And they found there was this one giant that, as I remember, it's been a few years since he told me the story, but this woman woke up to a commotion outside of her house. Her dogs were barking, and these giant aliens, as she called them, were in that backyard and killed her dogs and took off running. And the next day they had some investigators that came, and they were actually able to follow these footprints, of where the footprints led them to where a spacecraft had been sitting, and that's where the footprints ended. Apparently they had gotten back into the UFO and taken off. But the towns that were being visited by these giants, they were terrorized because Barry felt that there had been some sort of a prophecy of the return of Nephilim, and he referred to them as the Nephilim. And right. So these Israelites, they were, they thought it was the end days. They thought that was it for them. But there had been a lot of witness reports on that one in Israel. And I don't know if by now he may have put that up on YouTube, for your listeners. Maybe they could, type in on YouTube Barry Chamish and see if he doesn't have some of these, videos that he sent me on these UFOs. But they got some really good pictures of these UFOs. They were also leaving crop circles, too.
Mm-hmm. I know he did write a book about it, and it's available at lulu.com. I believe it's the name of it is The Return of the Giants, or The Return of the Nephilim. And there is a prophecy in Matthew 24 that speaks about, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the second coming of the Son of Man, that, speaks about how it was that during Noah's time there was all these giants, and how it was that they were cannibalizing humanity and drinking the blood of humanity, and that was one of the reasons why the flood was brought on. But I know that the Native Americans, too, that there's mythology about the giants as being associated to being cannibals, and how it was that they were warring against some of the native tribes here in the United States. Do you have any details on that you could share with us?
Wasn't that Lovelock Cave? I don't have the information in front of me right now, but I think that there was a story about the Indians chasing these giants into this cave there, and I think that was Nevada, if my memory serves me right. But anyhow, they got them into the caves, and then they put wood in there and set it on fire and killed off the giants. And apparently later on in the future, since then, we have actually found some of these skeletons that were in that cave. I think that I can't think of his name right now. Name escapes me. But there was one of the investigators He's on Ancient Aliens a lot. I can't think of his name. I hate that when that happens to me. But anyhow, he was actually able to see that skeleton. One of the skeletons they found was in a museum, and he was actually able to get into that museum and take a look at that skeleton. And that skeleton did show that it was a skeleton of a giant, not a regular-sized human. But we have, through Native American lore here in Wisconsin, we also have the stories of the giants that were cannibals. So apparently mankind was one of the favorite foods. But
right.
Yeah, but then again, we've got there's been not just the giants. There's been a lot of humans. In different tribes. In the more of the South Pacific Islands. That were cannibals. So someplace along the line, somebody developed a taste for humans. But
yeah, I think with the story of the cave in Lovelock, and Digger Dog in the chat room says that yes, that was in Lovelock, Nevada. But if I recall correctly, as far as the story, that one Native woman had written a book where she mentioned this particular story and spoke about how it was that her people went to war against the giants because of their abducting, people from their tribe, and that they found out, that they were cannibals and that they were eating and drinking the blood of humanity, and that the story that you brought forth and of them driving them into this particular cave and setting fire to it, but in later excavations, when somebody was searching for back guano, I believe it was, to serve as fertilizer for the planting of their crops, that they found a number of these bones and bodies, and that once they did excavations, there was a large number of these bodies and bones that were actually recovered, and that many of them have since disappeared, and but there was and I did see the episode that you were mentioning about where I can't remember exactly who it was either, but they found one of the skeletons in a museum, and that was that was also confirmation.
Yeah, I remember it was David Childress that actually was able to see these to see that skull.
Mhm. Yeah, David Hatch Childress.
David Hatch Childress.
Yes. He's done a lot of work in a lot of different places. Have you seen, Mary, the new series on Unearthed America?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic about that show. I'm very excited because nothing has ever really been done about the ancient civilizations of North America. It's always been a taboo subject. And thank God that somebody is actually starting to cover North America and bringing up these ancient artifacts, showing that the Mayans were here. There were ancient cultures here and thriving during the same time as the ancient Egypt. So, kudos to Unearthing America.
Yeah, I've liked that show as well. I've watched a number of episodes now, and there was just one recently where a farmer, and I believe he was in Wisconsin, if I'm correct. I'm not positive on this, but he had mentioned about how it was that he unearthed an 8-foot tall skeleton, and this is just recently. And again, he called out the archaeologists, and they kind of covered up the story, and since then the bones have disappeared. But that was further confirmation that these kind of things, these kind of artifacts, and are still to this day, being found. Can you speak to any new discoveries? Have you heard about any new revelations, and whether people are still discovering worldwide these kind of things and artifacts to support this?
Well, I'm kind of, with the ice caps melting. I'm kind of been watching that up there in Antarctica in those regions, because, and even like up in the northern parts of Alaska and that, because as those caps or these glacials disappear, we should be able to find some evidence of ancient civilizations and giants there too, because I think with the ancient civilizations, they were giants. The first people were giants, and then they started decreasing in size until you have what you have today. And so that's where we need to look, is going back to these ancient civilization sites and looking for the evidence of these people. But if somebody wants to know about what I have found in Wisconsin, they can go to burlingtonnews.net/mounds-Wisconsin, and Wisconsin spelled out WISCONSIN. So it's burlingtonnews.net/mounds-Wisconsin. But in every state here, with no exception, here in North America, you'll find newspaper clippings, stating that they found giants. I mean, the giants, and I worked a lot with Frank Joseph, and Frank Joseph and I were talking one day about, like, down in the Ohio Valley area, it was called, like, the killing fields because of all these old battles, ancient battles that went on. There was just the earth was white with bleached out skeletons of these giants. And if you go into the Book of Mormon, they talk about these killing fields as well, and the giant skeletons that were found, bleached out in the plains. But I mean these. There's different types. Just as there's different races here today, there was different. I mean, they one thing they had in common was the fact that they were giants. But there was also different races of giants. There was some giants that were just very, they were very bulky, and not as intelligent, but more primitive. But then there was also giants, that you hear about, in the Shasta, lake over by Lake Shasta, in the mountains, the mountains of Shasta, where there they think that they were Lemurian, but anyhow they were, and they talk about these people being very tall, of giant stature, that traveled to the stars and back. So, and the Anunnaki were also described as giants. These reptilians that were responsible for the introduction of blood sacrifice, they were also giants. Look very different from each other, but same proportion, the same, height. Mm-hmm. So we can't really put them all in one category and stamp giants on them, no more than we can take our races of people here on Earth today and just, stamp them as human.
Right.
Each one had their own agendas,
Yeah, I've heard of like the red-haired giants, and then there, the blonde hair, the Nordic with the blue eyes, and so I agree. There's different tribes, and and there's from all over the world. There's reports, like even in Patagonia, a giant foot, and in the reports of Columbus, well, not Columbus, but Magellan. The different explorers, even the conquistadors, when they first went into that land, how it was that they saw giants, and that they even tried to bring back some of these as specimens back when they came back across the ocean. They were wanting to show, and then there's the stories of the Romans and how they fought the Teutonic giants, and so. there was many races and different kinds and tribes of these giants worldwide, and there's all this mythology associated to them going back to, even to the time of the dinosaurs, as you spoke about in earlier reference.
Well, I'm trying to find this clipping that I have on giants, but there was a Caesar, and I believe that I'm trying to find it right now. Hopefully I can find it so I can give you a little bit more information on it. But he was from Rome. Caesar, one of the Caesars from Rome was, I believe he stood 8'4" or something like that.
Was that Maximus?
Yeah, it was. Thank you. Because I can't find that paper that I have on him. But I thought of it when you were talking about. Well, no, I found it. Hold on.
Okay, sure.
Let's see. Here's a Maximus Thrax, Emperor Caesar Garcia, or Gaius Augustus. Anyhow, it says. Let's see. He was 8'6" and heavily muscled man with powerful jaw and close-cropped hair, and then when the Spanish arrived in the Americas, the Indians told them of a race of giants that once lived there and built the great stone cities. Most of them were wiped out by the Great Flood. So, the Native Americans are taking it back to the survivors, the people that was here before the deluge and after the deluge. And, of course, that fits right in with Genesis.
Right.
And then, let's see, I've got some, there's, I was hoping that this had, I'm looking at some things that I have right here, but we have one, you ever hear that saying, whatever happened to Waldo? Anyhow, there was a guy here in Illinois, his name was Robert Wadlow, Wadlow, and he was, I think he was born in the 1900s, but a giant. I can't remember exactly how tall he was, 12, maybe 14 foot. I mean, the top of his head would actually touch the ceiling of, and in those days in the early 1900s, they had real tall ceilings. And anyhow, his head actually, when he would walk into somebody's home, so we're looking at at least 12-foot ceilings, and the top of his head would actually touch the ceiling. And so, so we do have people present, in this time, in the last several generations, that are giants as well, based off the recessive genes. So they've always been around, but not as many, of course, as there used to be.
Right.
But that's what's so crazy about the whole thing is we have Native American lore here in North America. We have prints in stone of these giants that walked with the dinosaurs. We have these large axes, these various types of tools that these people use that a person our size could never even lift, let alone be able to use. It wouldn't even be practical. And, so we have all this evidence all over North America, plus then we have it all over the world of these giants. But then when you go to an archaeologist and ask about them, they go blank. Like, what are you talking about? Well, it's like, it's gotten to the point where if a person of academia tells me that it's raining outside, I actually go to the window to look, and that's sad when we can't trust the people that we have always put our trust into.
Right.
Now we find out that they have their own agenda, and telling the truth to the American public is not part of it.
Right. Yeah.
They
are keeping this, especially this truth, from us, and the American people are so in the dark when so much of the rest of the world are familiar because they have their mythologies and they have their And even though we have our own mythologies and the artifacts and the mounds here, all that is being covered up and it's not reported on.
Well, yeah, the mounds. I mean, the earth and mounds. My gosh, that's a whole, that's a whole story in itself. It'd take up another radio show or several, because I mean, they're still trying to say that the earth and mounds were made by the Native American, and even the Native Americans say no. These earthen mounds, these stone mounds, these temples, these pyramids were made by a civilization that was here before we came.
Right.
And it's like, well, what do they know? Well, they know a lot, but the people in North America has no history. We're like orphans. We do, an orphan doesn't know their parents, so then they're always, when they grow up looking for their parents, because it's important to know your roots.
Right.
And this is something about North America. We have no roots. If we want to go back to our roots, we have to go back to, like our great-great-grandfather came from Ireland or came from Russia or came from Africa or someplace. But you can't say my great-great-great-grandmother or grandfather was born and raised here in North America and, her family was born here and her family here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
right.
That is the case. I mean, it's only common sense. If you had... Here you have a whole continent of North America, and they're trying to say that how it became populated was that these people came, well, one is Columbus, and then others will say the Indians came across the Bering Strait here. But, I mean, common sense, tells you if you have a complete civilization in Alaska and Canada, and then you got North America, and then you have another complete civilization in Mexico, Central America, the Yucatan, South America, and these are flourishing civilizations. And to connect Canada with Mexico, you have a large river, the Mississippi River, that starts up in the northern part of North America, right close to Canada, and it runs all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And they're trying to say that no one from this area populated North America, that the population all came across the Bering Sea. Well, that doesn't even make sense, or the Bering Strait. It doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Why would this, with all the hunting ground that they had here, the water they had here, for fish and and the gems and everything that North America had to offer, the people of Canada didn't bother coming into North America, or the people from Mexico didn't bother coming here, But we bought that story for some reason. I never did, but, some people did. Most people did. Because, why? Because the teachers taught it.
Right.
If you didn't turn around and on your test, if you didn't write that the people came up from the Bering Strait or Columbus discovered America, well, then you didn't pass that class.
Right, right, exactly.
Shame on them.
Yeah, it's a part of an agenda, definitely. Glenn Kimball and Jonathan Gray, both of them reported on some of the things that were found in some of the mounds here in America, and they speak about, skeletons of giants being within these earthen mounds, and that they were also encased with their armor and their shields and their weaponry, and that there were also found copper tablets and copper plates, some of them exhibiting, hieroglyphics and seemingly connected to Egypt, and a lot of these mounds have contained similar bodies and similar sorts of collections of artifacts and works, and you don't find that being reported on, not at all. And, I think also with what you were saying with the ice cap receding and so much more of what has been hidden under these ice caps, that there are going to be more and more discoveries, and with people utilizing like Google Earth to locate what are pyramid structures all over the world that have been covered up by undergrowth, overgrowth. I mean, even with these huge pyramids in Serbia, outside of a city where a lot of people have lived, and this one guy utilizing Google Earth to recognize and to be revelation that yes, these were indeed pyramid type structures, and then in excavating them verified that they were under what looked like mountains or hills, actual artificial structures. And so I think a lot of revelations are going to come out, and a lot of new things are going to be released to the public that are going to force everybody to redefine what they thought they knew as truth and reality. And that you're right, the skeptics are going to have egg on their face.
Well, I know who you're talking about with Jonathan Gray, because I did an interview with him as well, and he told me that it's the archaeologists, all these various scientists, they do not, because he is an archaeologist, and he said that they go where the money is, they go where the grants are, and he says that if they don't stay with the agenda, which he did not, by the way, but if these archaeologists and scientists don't stay with the agenda, they're not allowed not only they don't get the grant money, but they also aren't even allowed to get onto those sites, and so they have to stand back and watch somebody else go in there and be able to dig. So so it's hard on them as well. But as I talked to Dr. Bruce Agnew, a physicist, friend of mine, and he had told me that new science will come to be when the old scientists die off. And I think that that's what you're seeing a lot today, is there are new people coming into the field, and they are talking, people like Jonathan Gray, Dr. Bruce Agnew, there's another physicist is Dr. Claude Swanson. These type of people, they are talking, they are sharing the information, and people are listening. And so, these other people, that don't want to go along with the new program, they'll eventually, just like the dinosaur, they'll just kind of disappear, and their books will be just go to dust, because nobody's going to be reading them, You got to stay with the program, keep up on it, it's like a train gaining momentum right now, Get on it while you can, because pretty soon the train will be gone and you'll be left standing behind. Mm-hmm. And but you can. There's a lot of these authors, these from the archaeologists and that, they have written books, and they make a lot of money on those books. They sell their books. They make money on their lectures and things like that. So all of a sudden, people find out that their books, the truth isn't there, And
right.
So what happens? They're going to lose money on their books. They lose money, on lectures and so forth and so on. So, I mean, they're fighting, this new paradigm, that's coming to be. It's all about money,
Yep. Yep, and for the people that are going against, what has been accepted as truth and has been taught as truth, they are risking, their PhDs, their retirements, and they're risking, even the tenures, their different seats at different universities. And so, for those that are speaking truth to power, they really put themselves at risk and their families because the mainstream science is so against these revelations and trying to keep this away from the people and away from the media. And the media is also complicit because they don't report on these new revelations and these new finds. And then that was one of the reasons why I was really surprised that America Unearthed and where he has gone with his disclosure.
Well, I'm still waiting to see how far he'll go. Is he going to play it safe, or
right.
will he go out there and is he willing to put his neck on the chopping block? I have my fingers crossed that he will, go out there, and put up a good battle for all of us, because we'll all jump on the band, we'll all be there for him, We'll see. Like I said, my fingers are crossed, that this show's going to turn out okay. But he has to deal with the network. That UFO hunters, they went a little bit too far, because there was something that, with those cattle mutilations, they got some new evidence that came in on that, and they went public with it. And when they went public with it, there was a big uproar with the network, and anyhow, they told them that they could finish out that year, but after that, they were done, basically what the networks want to do is they'll put these type of shows out just as long as it doesn't step on anybody's toes. They want the shows, but give them the public just enough information where they come back to watch another show, but not enough information, to open up a can of worms.
Right.
They want the show strictly entertainment, with just a touch of truth to it. And so we'll see. But, with YouTube, this is what I'm excited about is how people, because now we can take, with the new smart televisions and that we can take like a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox or, something like that and hook it up to our televisions and skip over the regular television programs and go right to YouTube, and watch these shows, that like people like you and me are actually doing, that we're producing. So there's a whole new way of watching television right now, where we don't have to deal with the commercials, we don't have to deal with the propaganda. We can go pick our own shows out and watch them. And another great thing too